Okay, good luck. I'd like to start off by saying that I'm not a professional speaker, I'm not Numashbiya. However, this miracle story that I will be giving you, is not just a nice story, it's also a teaching and lesson in regards to B'tach and Emunah and the Rebbe. I heard one short story I'll tell you in regards to what I heard from Rabbi Goner once, that the Rebbe had called in a bunch of Chassidim on a Thursday night, and he asked them to do something specific for him that they needed an answer by Monday morning. Anyway, Monday morning, Rabbi Groner meets one of the Alter Chassidim, and he mentions, and he bumps into the Chassid, and he asks him, "No, we have an answer we could give to the Rebbe." And he says, "Listen, between you and me, what the Rebbe is asking is really impossible. So I don't even know what to tell the Rebbe, but really, we've been banging our heads the whole last, Thursday night, Friday night, whatever. We don't have an answer. So I don't know how to maybe kill time, whatever. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, so that when Rabbi Goner walks into the office Monday morning, he sees the Rebbe's waiting for an answer, and then he asks him, "No, do you have any answer on this?" So Rabbi Goner says, "Listen, I'll tell you the truth. I just bumped into one of the Alter Chassidim, and he told me that what the Rebbe's requesting is really impossible." So the Rebbe got very serious, and he said, "You think I didn't know it was impossible? But I thought with the Emunah and the B'tach that you would have in me, that the Inyan would be able to happen." Okay, so again, now back to the story that we have. Baruch Hashem, in this winter of 1996, my wife got pregnant with my twin daughters. Baruch Hashem, everything was okay at the time. We wrote a bracha into the Rebbe. This was already after Gimel Tammuz, but through the story you'll see how a lot really was connected before Gimel Tammuz also. And basically the Rebbe answered me that I should be involved in printing a sefer, and by doing that I will open up a new channel, a new passage, a new tziner, begashmis, beruchnis, spiritual and physical, that was never into the world. I didn't understand what it meant. I wasn't really asking for an answer. I was just asking for a bracha at the time. So my wife had met with the midwives, and they had mentioned to her about getting a sonogram. She already gained a lot of weight. In general, we knew that the Rebbe really didn't hold so much about the sonograms. We went to Rabbi Goner to speak to him advice. So in general, he explained to me that the Rebbe really, maybe didn't hold by it. But however, in regards to scenarios that are maybe the doctor thinks it's dangerous and everything, you should still go do the sonogram. So we did the sonogram. Like I said again, it was a day or two before Shavuos, and at the time my wife calls me from the hospital and says, "Please, you have to come to the hospital. They want to speak to us together." So I didn't know exactly what, but you felt that something wasn't really so great was going on over here. Anyway, we come to the hospital. They meet with us, and the doctor tells us we have a condition called the twin-to-twin transfusion. Basically, in simple layman words, one baby is getting all the fluids and all the nourishment, and the other baby is not getting the nourishment. So she started giving advice what to do, maybe aborting, doing this, maybe aborting one. I try to explain to you, as a doctor, your job is really to heal. Anyway, so she said, come back next week, whatever. I already told my wife we'll go search for another doctor, someone that we're going to feel comfortable with. Again, my wife was pretty devastated over Shavuos, but I said, listen, you have to have B'tach in the Eibush always make sure everything works out for the best. After Shavuos, my wife had called the midwives again. They set up an appointment in Long Island with Dr. Petrikovsky. He's a famous doctor in the North Shore Long Island Hospital, which he's famous for having a lot of multiple births, that there's problems and everything, so he really helps out over there. So Baruch Hashem, we went there a few days later after Shavuos. Happened to be that the Yiddish date was Yud Sivan, which I don't remember the English date at the time, but it was Yud Sivan, and we met with the doctor, and he did the sonogram again and checked, and he calls us in our office, and he says, "Yeah, what the other doctor told you is really true. It's really a dire situation. Twin-to-twin transfusion at that time. Basically the kids didn't survive, and if they did, one did, and usually that child wasn't really healthy." But I said, okay, whenever the Eibush could always help. He said, no, you really have to understand how dangerous it is. And he started telling us a few scenarios. If you don't do nothing, most of the time on its own, they'll just abort out on their own. So he says that at the best, that would be the best scenario in your case, because things aren't working really so well and everything. So he said, however, I can never tell you exactly what to do. You really have to speak to a mashpia, a rabbi, someone in this regards. So I said, no problem, I'll write a bracha to the Rebbe in this regards, explaining him the whole thing. between you and me, I'd like you to know that I feel really bad that I did this. I feel that maybe, Chas Shalom, again, you're talking from your heart over here, that maybe because I did a sonogram, because I knew the Rebbe, deep down the Rebbe didn't want, and he starts telling me that, well, I know what the Rebbe holds, and I hold a little different. So then I started questioning. I said, I want to make sure you understand that the doctor is not the healer, the Abish is the healer, but you are just the middleman. And there's in this regards, and he said, no, Chas Shalom, no, I believe in the Rebbe. I believe that the Abish, he's the healer. But I have to do, in regards to my professionalism, I have to be able to do what I have to do. There's an idea, a thesis that I have, that if you do what you call an amniothesis, basically you put the needle in, you take out some fluids from the mother's placenta, hopefully water redistributes again, so basically it could be a 50-50 scenario. However, in your situation, it would never be 50-50. It would always be maybe at best 70-30 in regards to the distribution of the fluids and the nourishment. So I said, I'm going to write a bracha into the Rebbe. He didn't understand. It was already after Gimel Tammuz, and I tried to explain to him, listen, the Rebbe has ways of giving answers. As Hasidim, we have ways of writing to the Rebbe, getting answers from the Rebbe. I told him one of the things I might do is, I'll write a letter, put in the English Kodesh, and Bez Hashem, I'll try to get an answer, and hopefully everything will be Bez Hashem very well, very good. So he tells me, okay, no problem. He didn't understand what I meant. He thought it was logistical hocus pocus, but I said, don't worry, a chassid of the Rebbe has to have emunah and betach that the Rebbe is going to give him an answer. Anyway, so we came home and wrote bracha again, and but in Nigos Kodesh happened to be the day I opened up was the same exact day we were actually in the hospital. So there was like 3 little parts to the letter. There was like a little, in the middle paragraph, which I really saw in bold letters, the Rebbe says, listen to what the doctor says, because the Eibusher gives him the strength, the kech l'rapes, the strength to heal. So the right away I knew, okay, this idea that he wants to do, we're going to go ahead with it. Then I reread the letter again, and then the first paragraph speaks about how financially you're not doing well at all, and there's only one reason why you're not doing well, is because I'm waiting for you to give me a lot of money. That's what the Rebbe writes. So right away, when I read this, right then I connected, this is what the Rebbe is telling me, print the Sefer. He already told me, you'll open up a new passage, B'gash Misruch, that was not in the world ever. God, that happened to be right afterwards, I was listening to a sikha of the Rebbe, because the Rebbe speaking about how a person donated once a large amount of money for printing of a sefer, and from that he had many, many brachas. So right away I knew that Bez Hashem, everything's going okay. I had known for years that the Rebbe wanted the B'sur Segula to be printed in English, so I took upon myself right there then a chlata to print it. So the next morning I went to 770, I went upstairs to our Rabbi Chanan, and he was at the time printing I knew someone told him that he'd be involved in printing this sefer, so I come upstairs, I meet with him, and he looks at me, he's like, oh, crazy, you have no money. I said, it doesn't matter, I have a credit card check, I'll write out a credit card check for whatever you need, even though at the time I for sure could have used the money. I was like 6 months behind in my rent and electricity, you name it, I was behind in everything. My wife looked at me, what are you doing? I said, no, the Rebbe wants it, the Rebbe wants, that's what we're going to do. Good, okay. So the next morning we have to go back to the doctor to tell him that we're going to go ahead with this amnio that you spoke about. So we figured on the way there before going to the hospital, it's Long Island, we'll stop by the oil and then we'll continue to the hospital afterwards. So we come to the oil. So now I'm going to backtrack 5 years earlier. 5 years earlier, during my oldest son, during his upshernish, so we went through on Sunday the dalit to the Rebbe for the upshernish.
Zoals er gedaan is, Goodman, dan zei van een kind dat was tot zo'n hoogte met de derde, dat was de trainer van de horses.
Dat was maar goed te schoenen. Die stad zal leven, die niet daar, maar zij niet daar.
Amen.
Dat is de vraag.
Dat lag er maar veel in de vers.
We go through over there. The Rebbe gives me, my son, brachas. He gives extra dollars. My father's there. The Rebbe speaks to my father about the horse racing. My father's involved in horse racing. He's a horse trainer. Gives him brachas. My wife goes through. And then after my wife goes through, she walks away. The Rebbe calls her back. The Rebbe calls her back. And he tells her, he gives her an extra $. He said, lay the kala v'tinok bari, the Rebbe tells you. You should have an easy labor and a healthy child. Okay, 5 years later, now, right now, we came into the aisle. Before we have a chance to sit down, on the video, pops up on the video, not me when I'm getting a brach from the Rebbe, not when my father, not when my wife's getting the $1 from the Rebbe, only when the Rebbe calls her back and tells her the words, lay the kala v'tinok bari. You should have an easy labor and a healthy child. So right away we knew we got the Rebbe's brachas covered, and there's really not from our part we had nothing to worry about. Really, we were very calm and cool and collective in regards to the whole thing, even though we understood from what the doctors said is a dire situation. But the Rebbe, the munah b'tach you have to have in the Rebbe has to be not just 99%, it has to be 100%. You have to totally believe in it. Baruch Hashem, we go to the hospital, we tell the doctor what happens. He's like, couldn't believe what happens. I mean, he is a doctor. He is not, I don't want to say he's a cynical type of guy, but he wouldn't, at the time, he didn't understand this whole thing. I said, don't worry about it, doctor. Everything's gonna be okay. And Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe answered me this bracha from Nikas Kiddush. I think you have the schus. You have the schus. I told him to make sure that everything's gonna be Baruch Hashem okay. No problem. So then he said, they made up. Then we're gonna come every Friday. And do this amniothesis. It's a whole procedure that you put the needle inside the stomach and you take out the fluids and everything. So this way so she'll be able to relax through the whole weekend, because it's a procedure you have to be careful of. I mean, sometimes you can get infected, whatever, but, just to make sure everything should be okay. The first time he took a lot of fluid. He was very nervous because it was so much he was taking out. But then, he stopped and he said, let's stop this time. I'll do it next time. I'm a little nervous. I took maybe too much fluid out at this time. The following week again, he took out also. This time happened to be, it was a little less fluid than the first time. And then the third time again, also he took out. So this was going to be a procedure every Friday that we were going to do for the next, however long the pregnancy could last. And all of a sudden we come the fourth week. I remember also when we came to the hospital, every time it was mamish. It wasn't just like one or two doctors. There was always at least 5-6 doctors inside. Just because this was something that this is something that's not a norm. How to deal with this situation. Plus, this was a new theory that he had that would work. Anyway, they're doing the sonogram again, and they're looking, and all of a sudden he says, "Wow, we're not going to do the amnio this week." And then the nurses are looking also, and they said, "We don't understand, Doc. Can you please explain?" From one point, the things aren't getting better. On the other hand, the kids are growing. So can you please explain what's going on over here? So he says, I'll tell you the truth, I don't have all the answers myself, but it seems that they got a bracha from the Rebbe, and like this, they're getting direct nourishment from above. That's how it's working, because the placenta wasn't working. Anything that had to do in regards to the pregnancy part wasn't working. However, Baruch Hashem, the girls were growing. So again, they didn't understand al piteva how this is shaykh, how it's capable by nature for this to happen. Anyway, at the time also the doctor came over to me. This is a side issue which my wife really didn't even know at the time. There was 2 other cases over there with other people, and he told them, listen, I have some over here. He's connected to a rabbi. Ask a blessing, and everything will be okay. That's what he tells them. So okay. So one of the people said straight out, I don't want to bless you or nothing. Next morning, their babies aborted just naturally. The other person, he said, do me a favor. I want him to write a blessing for us. I don't want him to know our names or nothing. I said, no problem. I don't need to know names. Just I'll write a bracha to the Rebbe. And Baruch Hashem, all of a sudden, by him also, things started to stabilize in a nice way. Happened to be, I think it was a 4th of July weekend. It was one of the holiday weekends. And they had a big barbecue with the family. And the family convinced them, are you crazy? Everybody knows. We've been reading up on this. A twin-to-twin transfusion never survives. And they convinced the family that they shouldn't continue with the pregnancy. Anyway, that next day when we met with Dr. Pashkovsky, he calls me over. He says, I want you to know that, this family that we've been requesting a blessing and everything, they say, please tell the rabbi we don't want the blessing no more. Anyway, the next morning their baby's aborted also. So you see how you have to have the mun. Even they didn't even know, but the mere fact that they were willing to even write into bracha to the Rebbe, first time shows the mun b'tach you have to have in the Rebbe. He's the one that makes sure that all our blessings come through. Then finally, it was like in the end of the 7th month, almost the end of the 7th month, we go to the hospital. I also that week I realized my wife just was feeling tired and knocked out. Anyway, we get to the hospital, and the checker says, "You're here. You're staying now till the babies are born." Anyway, happened to be over the weekend. Also, they had stop. She was going to labor. They had to stop the labor and everything because the kids were still young. The lungs don't develop as much when they're so small. They have to gain, try to gain some weight. Try to be, have at least try to get to 8 months, whatever you could do. Okay, so so Baruch Hashem, things kept going. Again, we weren't working on a month. We were working on, let's get every 3 days a week, just to make sure that every 3 days a week, whatever they can last, should be good. Finally, at the 8th month, I remember the doctor says, "You know what? It's time to let it go. We have to bring the babies out into the world and just rely on whatever brachas we have. But I have to do my work and bring him to the world and get everything done correctly." So he made up to do it. Happened to be God. It was on a Monday, which happened to be we had the Labor Day parade. So I convinced him, and I said, to do it the next day, Tuesday, because it's really hard. It's hard to get in and out of Crown Heights on Labor Day. Specific also in this regards that they needed a lot of doctors. They're probably going to be short-staffed. He calls me up. He says, "Well, 100% we're going to be short-staffed on Monday. We're going to do it on Tuesday." So Baruch Hashem, Tuesday comes. We go to the hospital. Again, I've never been in the room when my wife gives birth. I'm always on the outside. But I remember when I'm walking in, there was so many doctors that started coming in and everything. And I remember Dr. Petrikowski actually calls me over and says, "Come, I want to speak to you for a few minutes." He says, "You see how crazy it is over here. I want you to know that I saw the Rebbe's blessings, and I believe everything's going to be okay. They might be sick for a little bit, for half a year. They might be in the hospital for a while, but I think everything in the long run is going to be good." I said, "Doc, I'm not nervous. I know Baruch Hashem, everything's going to be okay." He says, "Boy, I wish I had your faith like you have, but Baruch Hashem, I do believe everything will be okay." I said, "No problem." Again, at the time, I remember there must have been at least 15 doctors just for my wife. There must have been another 15 doctors 20 doctors for the babies. It was like a shtuckle zoo. It was like crazy how people were just coming to see how things were going to be out. Anyway, I'm outside. Like I said, I never go in. And I hear my wife, like she's talking a lot, and she's like, really relaxed and everything. Again, the Rebbe said this would be an easy labor. It was relatively an easy labor. We're talking about twins, and Baruch Hashem, I remember you hear them, okay, it's time to push, time to do this, and all of a sudden the first baby comes out, and there's a silence, because again, they're looking forward to, not looking forward to, but they're expecting something maybe not so well. And Baruch, all of a sudden you hear the main doctor scream, "This is a healthy child. It's a healthy child." Like he was like with amazement, "This is a healthy child." And like they couldn't believe it, like everybody was a little excited, everything. And my wife said, "Please, can I see the baby now?" She says, "Ma'am, calm down. There's another baby going to come out in another minute." She's like, "No, let me see my baby." "Ma'am, you got to calm down." I think she was like so, all of a sudden, like she was like so calm, relatively calm, cool on this, that she even asked, "Can you cover me up a little bit? Come inside sneeze." It was Baruch Hashem. It was like the Rebbe said, it'll be easy labor. Then a few minutes later, Baruch Hashem, the next baby was born, and you hear the doctor, "This is also a healthy baby. Matter of fact, this is even bigger than the first one." So you see, Baruch Hashem, they were, the doctor says everything looks, they look okay, they look healthy. It happened to be in the end, one was the smaller one, which was the first one, she was I think 4'7", and the second baby born was 6'3". So Baruch Hashem, they had a nice size weight and everything. We come outside, and now the head nurse is looking at me. What am I going to do? Do I bring it to we have set up like a unit over here with ICU and all this stuff, and we don't know where to go. And she looks at me. She said, "What do you think I should do?" I said, "Listen, are they healthy?" She says, "100% healthy." So let's go to the regular maternity ward. So she looks around. She says, "He's right. Let's go to the regular maternity ward." And Baruch Hashem, we went to the regular maternity ward. Can I know her? The girls didn't have to stay in no hospital no months. They Baruch Hashem came home right away. Everything was healthy. Can I know her? If you look at them now, they're gazunta kids, and everything. The doctor comes over to me and he says, "Listen up. I want you to tell the whole world about this miracle because they got a direct nourishment from above. I'm holding the placenta in my hand. The placenta doesn't work. It's a broken down placenta." My wife tells me later on that when they were cleaning her up and everything else, they were saying, "This doesn't work, that doesn't work." Everything they had to do in regards to giving birth to a baby was not working. You know, so like again, Baruch Hashem it was like a direct nourishment from above in regards to this. The Rebbe had said at the time that when I printed it, that you'll open up a new channel, not just for me, it was for the whole world. 2 summers ago, again, this story. My girls Kanan now are 17 years old. This 2 summers ago, I did a camp out west with teenage girls. One Shabbos, we were in Scottsdale, Arizona. At the end of that, one of my daughters come over to me and says, Tati, I want you to go meet some lady like to meet with you. She has twin boys, and she wants to speak to you about it. So the lady starts talking to me about the twin boys. And she was saying, yeah, my sons had twin transfusion. We don't know, the doctors kept saying the whole time, we don't know how they're surviving, because according to nature, there's no way for them to survive. But for some reason, they're surviving and everything. So I told her the whole story, that the Rebbe said that you open up a new channel, the Gashim is Baruchnis that would make such scenarios Baruch Hashem happen, and Baruch Hashem. So that happened, and afterwards, Baruch Hashem, my wife got involved with Shaitels, which she was a little involved before, but she ended up meeting with all the top wholesalers that are out there, distributors and manufacturers, and Baruch Hashem, she does well. And I would say since then, probably I've been involved, probably in 25 Sfarim, printing 25 Sfarim. I had this list to do that. So again, you have to have the Toch in the Mun and the Rebbe, and that knowing, if you trust in them, everything Baruch Hashem will be okay.